Hello, and here I'm going to talk a little bit about the Amiga Speedmaster 105003, referred to by collectors as the Ed White. It's a straight lug case in steel with a black dial. For a long time this languished a little bit. It was the Ed Whites were not as sought after as the other straight lug Speedmasters like the 2998s. But now they're quite rightly recognised as a very desirable watch. This one came to me about 10 years ago. It had some Amiga history. It was serviced by Amiga. And first thing I look at when I look at a watch, of course, is the dial. And this one has a black bodied dial with the secondary shade, if you like, of grey. I don't know if it's really a shade or whether it's a lack of depth to the colour, but this dial is very definitely, it's off black. Not by any means a grey dial, it's off black. Check the rest of the dial for any damage or blemishes or hand damage, and there is none. The body is even and the colour is all throughout the dial as it should be. Then I run my eyes around the minute track, checking for chips at the edge as well as any damage to the print, and there is none. I also see that the T-Swiss made T is down at the bottom there, with the close space T's. This dial is a non-professional dial, so just 2 lines of text. The dial is correct. Specification. The question is it a nice dial? Well, this particular one has slightly white-yellow lume markers which look like they've been applied by a 5-year-old. They haven't. They've been applied by Amiga or its agent when the watch was made. And it's it's not uncommon to see this in early Ed Whites, this wobbly lume. It's not attractive or desirable or a characteristic I seek, and if a watch has it, I have to value it accordingly. Then I look at the bezel. The bezel is the correct dot over 90, and it's got slight sort of damage or wear here. It's been worn away, and the body colour itself is slightly grey on that bezel. It's correct, but it's not a super valuable bezel. One could argue that it fits with the rest of the watch. As I mentioned, it was serviced by Amiga, and the reason I know this, apart from the fact it came with a little chit, is the case is polished. But it's if you're going to have a polished case, then have Amiga do it. It's clean. It's very clean, and they've retained the outlines. I mean, they're not sharp in anything. They blurred the outlines, but it's a clean watch. And Amiga's, they did the best, what they thought was the best job. I personally don't like it. As a collector, I want to have the original finish. As I said, I bought this watch a long time ago, and I paid the appropriate price for it. We turn the case over and we can see the hippocampus is present, Speedmaster engraving and the symbol. You also see the back of the lugs it's very nice actually. We can clearly see that the pushers are service, correct size, but the crown is not the correct size. Here's the correct crown. If I put it up against it, you can see it, and you can see that this has the skinny logo. So we really should look inside this, and I'm going to use my friend Paul's prototype opener that he sent me when he was playing around with his CNC machines, and this one is a lot bigger than the production ones. It has weight to it. I like it. Okay, we've made the case loose, and we'll just take that off. And then whenever you're assessing a Speedmaster, you've got to check the reference on the inside of the Caseback, and here we can clearly see that it's a 105003-64. Now we'll remove the dust cap. Very clean dust cap, correct for the age. And here we have a beautiful 3-2-1 movement. Why do I call it beautiful? Well, it's clean. If you check the screw heads, there's no damage to them. That means that no gorillas have been inside this watch. The screw heads. You don't have to be a watchmaker to do these checks. You just have to have eyes. 3-2-1 with its characteristic horseshoe bridge, balance cock bridge and the number bridge, and those copper colours are all matching. The white metal parts are all clean with original finish. This is something you can always check off a photograph of a watch that's for sale, or even if you get the watch in hand, you check it yourself. Just check to see the movement's clean and that the screws are undamaged and that the bridges are clean and matching. Now, let's put this back on. That's seated properly. Line up. On Paul's later openers, the Caseback often sits onto the opener quite handily, so you can just bring it up. You know, it sticks to it, so pinch it up. And there you have a very nice Ed White. Very nice indeed. I mean, it is what it is. It's it's not a fine Ed White. A much finer example would be this. It's a one owner watch that I bought a few years ago now, and it came with all its documents, including the copy of the original sales invoice, which was wonderful. And I won't go into this quite as deeply as that, but what I wanted to do was to show the immediate difference between this dial and this dial, the color of the dial, the body color. It's very obvious to me. This is a deeper black. Very attractive dial, and it has lume that covers the markers. They're straight. They're not like these wobbly looms, and they're an attractive color. If you look closely, they're a little thin. The lume is a little thin. I mean, it's not a perfect watch by any means. The bezel, in comparison to this, the bezel's fantastic. But what I would do is suggest that you don't get overexcited, because this bezel has a slight fade to it. You're probably only going to see this if you put it up next to another one. The case is very sharp. It hasn't had the same polishing as this, but as a result it shows signs of wear. The watch was worn by the previous owner. The bracelet is 1039 and it's slightly loose, but it's a very, very attractive watch. It's worth more than double this. And there's the thing, it's all down to monetary value. You know, if you can buy a watch like this for the right money, it can give you enormous pleasure. And we can go further with Ed Whites, and we will do in another video, because this is not the finest. It's very fine. It's probably better than most of the watches I've seen offered for sale in the last 12 months. However, we can get better, and we can get rarer, and we can go more special. And if you'd like to see that, I guess you just have to let me know, and I'll do it.